Jordan Groshans is him. The Marlins have solved the third base riddle already. Jordan Groshans is up and raking. I have already penciled him in. No, I haven't. I've inked him in as the opening day starter at third base in 2023. However, Shaun Barrett is here, and we're going to dig into whether that idea is on the money or wide of the mark on today's Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked On Marlins. This is your daily Marlins podcast, even in the depths of September. Yes, sir. I am your host, Peter Pratt. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at MiamiMarlins_UK. Please subscribe to the pod or the YouTube channel. If you are watching, hello, greetings. You will see it's Wednesday and Shaun Barrett is still here. And yes, we are still in the same outfits. If you watch yesterday's episode, they were so good to us yesterday. We've doubled down and wore the same gear. Nevertheless, Shaun, how you doing, brother?
Yeah, there's certainly no double recording today. We just wear the same outfits every day. Good to be back, Pete, and talking Marlins baseball as always.
No doubt about it. Let's get right into it, mate, because we have got a packed show. We spent yesterday talking about the Dolphins, rightly so, and Sandy Alcantara, also rightly so. There's tons of other guys that we have to get into, and as I've teased out on the top of the hour, on the top of the show, for me, Jordan Groshans is having a stunning start to his major league career. We were worried about the power. All of a sudden, hits a huge bomb. His brother going absolutely bananas in the stands, pulling the Jan Arga-Fjortoft celebration, which was stunning to see. For those that are then asking, Pete, who the hell is Jan Arga-Fjortoft? You have to go and search Swindon Town players in the early 90s, and you will find him. And it was a very, very famous celebration. Was it Jan Arga-Fjortoft? I'm now slightly doubting myself on that. But anyway, Jax Groshans going with the Jan Arga-Fjortoft in the ballpark there, which is great to see. For me, Groshans has come in and has looked the real deal, not just offensively, but defensively. The Marlins here, I think, may have found a potential major league player at third base. What about you?
I was not expecting Swindon Town to start for sure, but there were some fiery Swindon Town Oxford games back in those 90s and early 2000s for sure. No, Groshans is he's come as advertised, hasn't he? He's previously a top 100 prospect. And yeah, I mean, the discussion point has been, is he a shortstop? Is he a third baseman? Limited time, 5 games at third base. He's played quite well. You know, the metrics certainly balance out as, you know, you'd be happy with having him there as a starting third baseman. The power, which we've spoken already about the idea of having power at third base and the requirement for that and the lack that the Marlins have had for decades. He spoke, didn't he, about wanting to add a bit more power to his bat. And yeah, I mean, when you think, if I'm going to be a third baseman, I need to add power. That's anybody would know that. So the fact that he's got that home run, that he's hitting well, you know, straight off the bat, it's nice, isn't it? I've said so many times, we're not going to see enough to know about what he's going to be able to do next year in this real small window. But I'd rather he hit than he didn't. And at the moment, yeah, with the situation with BA and how he struggled this year and the number that he's going to be at, could you argue that Groshans could give you what BA would give you at league minimum? If you think that's the case, I do. Then there's not a discussion point to be had, is there? Let's save that money and spend it elsewhere.
No doubt. I think that's a really great question, a really good way of thinking about it. And the right lens to look through for the Marlins is, can we get BA's production at 6 million less effectively, or 5.5 million, whatever the number may be? And you might be right. I think it's possible. It's just funny, right? Because I've never seen any Groshans at-bats ever before. So his major league debut and the following at-bats, the next week's worth of play, first time I'd ever seen him. What I have seen, though, I really liked just the approach. Feels to me like the bat and the swing plane, the bat is in the hitting zone a long time. It looks like it's there. It looks like he's just going to make a lot of contact. And for me, I've been seeing a lot of players not making a lot of contact. I'm really encouraged with what I've seen from Groshans. I really am. And defensively, really encouraged. The one surprise, though, for me, though, Shaun, I have to be honest, is, considering where we are in the year, that we haven't seen him have any time at shortstop in this brief period. I know maybe it's to let him familiarize himself, but I am slightly surprised they haven't, analytics guy at the, wherever they sit, the top of the building somewhere, have said, hey, we'll plug him in 3 days' time in shortstop and see what we've got. Bit surprised on that. What about you?
Yeah, a little bit. And it's weird for you to say they're protecting him by letting him play a position he's more comfortable in, when we've had a whole season and multiple players playing in a position that they're not used to, and it's affected them on both sides of the ball. So Is this a case of they finally learnt their lesson, or is it a case of they know he's probably better at third base, or is it that they know that the hole that they're going to have next year is at third base, and that's where they want him? That's an interesting wrinkle for me, as far as, do they have a plan at shortstop? Is that Miggy? Is that somebody else that they're coveting? I think, the lineup next year is going to be interesting. I'm not a run it back guy. I think we need to make some changes. But I had a discussion this week about the lineup for 2023, and every time I went through the lineup, I'm picking guys that are still in the team. I think 7 of the 9 guys that I had penciled in for next year are on the team. So it's hard to see where we're going, and especially when you're the Marlins, they're not going to be picking up these big guys. So Groshans at third next year. Does it excite me? Not as much as a big name free agent would. Certainly, but when you're talking about top 100 prospect, that's the kind of people. It's not some guy that they're just picking up. It's not a LeBlanc who came out of nowhere. And while he's hit well, how much faith do we have in him, really?
Limited, I would say. I think LeBlanc is the Dela Cruz of 22. Personally, that I'm pretty confident he'll cool off and regress back down to what you think, etc. And I have more confidence, to your point, in Jordan Groshans, the pedigree, the seasoning. The sense is that most likely you would get a major league, at least a major league average player out of him for sustained periods. While we're talking about shortstop, I think it's right for us to call out Miguel Rojas, El Capitan, is having a truly stunning defensive year at shortstop. Say whatever you will about his bat and his activities on Twitter, but defensively with the glove, it has been probably his best ever. I haven't looked at the numbers to verify that, but for me, Miggy is having his best defensive year that I can think of. He has been absolutely sensational. Marlins comms put a tweet out over the weekend, effectively trying to give him a little bit of pump for the Gold Glove and remind us that where Miggy's at. And really what they're reminding us is that really he should be in the lead in terms of the NL shortstop Gold Glove. I mean, Shaun, I don't know how these things are voted on, and whether there's any specific preferences or tendencies or bias that coaches and managers have. But take all that away, Miggy Rowe, he deserves a Gold Glove at shortstop this year, in my opinion. What about you?
Not just this year. I mean, if you think about it, as far as his career goes, you're talking about, is this his best year? And statistically, you could argue that it is. But he's had year after year after year of quality, and we've seen it. When you're watching the game, you see it. He's an elite defensive player. And I think it's not a case of, if he doesn't win it, he's been robbed. Because I only watch Marlins games. I don't watch a lot of other teams. So there may be other defensive guys out there that are elite guys.
Someone will be pumping Swanson. I'm convinced they'll be talking about Swanson and maybe Lindor and whatever. I mean, of course,
these are big market teams, and people do get swayed by that as well.
No doubt.
But he's up there. He's a finalist. He's a guy that deserves his moment in the sun, as far as having some recognition for that. The bat hasn't been great this year. One of his slower years, but it's not been dreadful. A defensive first shortstop that can hit. I'd only expect a little bit more performance, and I would be happy to place him in the lineup next year. The off the field, in the clubhouse, I don't think the social media part actually matters as far as what the teams see. But I'm probably in a very small sect of people that says I still like to see him as a starting shortstop for the Marlins next year. I don't see a scenario where they go out and get an improvement on that. The defense, is going to be there. The offense, he could back, a small bounce back, and you're talking, a 90, 95, 100 WRC plus with elite glove. That's a starting shortstop for, a good team. I don't think that's a hole that the Marlins need to fix. I think there are other holes in the lineup and the bullpen. That's where I'd like to see the efforts to improve the club.
Shaun, I completely agree. I completely agree with you that Miggy Rowe locked the glove in and locked the bat in the main down in the 7, 8, or 9 hole, not trying to be the guy hitting in the 5, the 2, the 1 spot. Just lock him in there. It's perfect. The catcher, Miggy, they're hitting in the last 2 out of the 3 spots in the lineup, unless Fortes is going. Like, let's say Stallings is starting. It's a sandy start. Stallings is hitting 9, Miggy 8, and then the rest of the lineup goes upwards. I'm all good for that. Not a problem. Miggy Rowe's glove is absolutely sensational, and it delivers so much value, just the glove. From a bat perspective, it has cooled this year. But I do also think that, like, from Miggy's perspective, the team were in it. This team was in the hunt for a long period, and then the injuries hit, and I think Miggy's tried to do a bit too much, and the drill, like maybe Coop did, try to just become the hero. It's not how baseball works. You can't be the hero. You just got to play your game, stay within yourself. And I think Miggy, Coop, they all got a bit outside themselves, trying to kind of pull an Aaron Judge, effectively. Can I Aaron Judge the Marlins to the playoffs? And unfortunately, neither Coop or Miggy have the attributes that Aaron Judge does right now. Nevertheless, I'm with you. I think Miggy Rowe is the better's choice to remain the opening day shortstop for the Marlins in 23. And I also think that there's a good chance he wins a Gold Glove. And I think it would be wild if the Marlins lose, let's just say, 90 games for round numbers. They lose 90 games, have 3 All-Stars, a Gold Glove, and a Cy Young winner. I mean, wild scenes if that was to be the case. Nevertheless, first ad of the day, guys, and it's Wednesday, and this is always my favorite ad, my new one. However, I have to call out, there is no shipping to the UK. So UK listeners, unfortunately, this one is not for you, but enjoy the content nevertheless. Summer is winding down, and the nights are getting longer, but the breeze isn't the only thing that's getting stiff. That's right. This episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. Guys, we all know that confidence can take you far in life. That's especially true in the bedroom, especially when it's time to step up to the plate. That's where Blue Chew comes in. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, but in chewable tablets and at a fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of the licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The best part, it's all done online, so no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the US of A and prepared and shipped direct to your door in a discreet package. So if you could benefit from extra confidence when it's time to perform, chew it and do it. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use the promo code Locked On at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping, and that is it. That is BlueChew.com, promo code Locked On to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast. Stunning. Love that one, as always. Okay, Shaun, where I wanted to kind of deviate into now, we've kind of talked about Groshans. The bat, the stick looks nice. The defense looks nice. There's a good chance Groshans can start at third base, in my opinion, next year. And the Marlins will hope for that. I think Miggy Rowe, the defense, is nice, and we know that. Good chance he can win the Gold Glove. Talk to me about center field, though, mate, because we've seen another J.J. Bleday issue in center field over the weekend where there was a ball that went over his head to the wall, and somehow, he kicks it down the line. Bryan Anderson trying to cover. A bit of a mess. You got Bleday playing center, Bryan Anderson playing right field. They somehow kick it around each other, and there's an inside the park home run. Luckily this time, no torn ACLs. Nevertheless, it was an inside the park homer, and Bleday misplays another one. I mean, it's getting to that point now where we're maybe going to have to get to the point of JJ Bleday in center and saying experiment over, I think, on this one. What about you?
I think the experiment's over. I don't think it'll be his last game in centre field because we've just got to see out these games, haven't we? We're spluttering to the end of the season. And they might as well give him the last couple of games for whatever reason. In my mind, if the Marlins are serious about competing next year, the starting centre fielder isn't in the organisation right now. Mm-hmm. There's no way that we can go through another season of this where we spoke all off season last year about, who are they going to get, how they're going to fix this, how they're going to work around it. The Mag Sierra years were over. Let's bring in a quality centre fielder, and that never materialised. And we spent the whole season watching guys that ultimately can't do it, try. Jesus had a little bit of a period of time in the early season where it wasn't too bad, but then the offensive struggle started to kick in, and then he's trying to balance too many balls, and ultimately that's what sent him down to AAA. The fact that they're doing it again with Bleday is a bit concerning. Now, they did give him a lot of opportunity in the minor leagues, and maybe they saw enough. The numbers weren't great. They weren't dreadful, though. But at the major league level, I think it's different, isn't it? And ultimately, they can't be looking at what's currently happening and going, there's our centre fielder for the future.
Oh, I agree. I agree on that one. I just think the glove clearly is not playing in center field. I'm actually being encouraged from a hitting perspective and the approach. And, on the Sunday game, when Sandy was going, there was a kind of typical Bleday moment, took a nice walk, worked a 3-2 count, walked, I think stole a bag as well. Bleday as a major league hitter, he has the attributes. Just as center field, it's uncomfortable for him. He's uncertain. It looks uncertain going back at the wall. He got tested again. There was another ball that was really similar that actually got hit to him. And I was thinking, oh boy, this is almost identical to one he blundered earlier. And he did make the play. However, to your point though, Shaun, the starting center fielder for the Marlins is not on the roster right now, in my opinion. We failed to address that in the offseason. In reality now, when you kind of say run it back, what we are running back are the same requirements. We still have a center fielder need, and we still need to solidify the back end of the pen. And plus, we've taken Anthony Bass out of that back end of the pen as well. So you need to also add in someone there. Cole Sulser, Tanner Scott. I mean, Sulser's been an option to AAA now. It's not been good for him. Scott equally is, he is who he is. It's tightrope stuff every single time from those guys. You just can't rely on them. For a sustained period, you cannot rely on those dudes, in my opinion. The Marlins took a chance. It's bullpen arms. Anything can happen. But Cole Sulser's regression for me, and I know there was a kind of injury sprinkled in there, but his regression has been really stark, I would say, at the kind of back end of this year, particularly since he come back from injury, and it was really not good, and it felt like a good time to option him down to AAA. I know I've segued into the pen. I'll bring it back to center field in a sec, but just overall now, as we kind of look back on Sulser and Scott, the trade they made, they try to kind of add to it. They were forced into that in some ways. But how do you feel about those two now? We've had a full year of eyeballs on them.
Yeah, they were forced, weren't they? And right before spring training to make a move and at least get some people in. And we were kind of excited by it. And there were periods where Sulser was getting the job done. He never looked amazing, but he was getting that job done, getting those saves. And Scott, for the beginning of the season, I remember talking about him being, the walks are down, the Ks are always going to be there. And then all of a sudden, the walks have just started to blow up again. And that's concerning. I mean, you'd like to say, give them an off season with Mel and maybe they can work on some stuff. And I'm sure they will. And I'd expect some kind of improvement. But the fact that he's gone downhill as the season's gone through is a little bit concerning. I think they do need that off season to sort of, work on that, because I think the stuff's there. If they can get that walk rate even slightly manageable, that's a completely different arm. That's a leverage pen kind of guy. At the end of the day, the Marlins tried to, do it on the cheap, and they'll always, to a certain degree, do that to build a bullpen, because bullpens are funny. I mean, you look at Bass last year. we were all ready to start a GoFundMe to pay the money to get him off the team. And then he pitched really well this year, got us Groshans in the trade. So year to year, there's very little sort of you can't look at this year and project for next year, just like we couldn't do that last year. So I think there's stuff that's for Solskjaer and Scott. There's enough there for you to go, run it back. They're going to be relatively cheap, and hope that we see some improvement. And when you're talking bullpens, that's kind of what the Marlins have to do, isn't it? Piece it together, and you want 25 guys that you think you can work with, and you end up with 10 of them being floated around, and you just hope that some of them, work out, because the Marlins aren't going to spend that money. Or historically, they never have done, consistently anyway. But yeah, when you're looking at the bullpen specifically for next year, you kind of go, do they go out there and get one guy, get that big name, and then fill it the rest of it the way they have always? Is that going to work? Who knows? Do they sprinkle the money and get 3 or 4 mid-tier guys and hope one of them, rises to the top? There's many ways to skin the cat, but the one thing I do know is I'm never going to go into a season going, we've got a top 10, top 5 bullpen.
No. I mean, it's an interesting one, just kind of thinking about, if you just get one dude that is just the 9th inning stud and you lock him in, would that have a material impact? I saw a wild stat knocking around over the weekends that the Mets are, I think, 80-0, and maybe the numbers have been updated since. The Mets are 80-0 when leading after the 8th. And I don't know how long that streak stretches, but maybe that's this season. I don't know. I mean, they've won, more than 80 games, so it's possible that this is from this year, the Mets, 80-0 when going into the 9th effectively with a lead. I mean, it just shows you, if you do have a stud that you can rely on and that can just lock down games. I mean, Edwin Diaz has had an absolutely stunning year, and I mean, it's trumpets and all for Edwin Diaz this year, no doubt, but it just shines a light on it, that how critical it is and just how important, how much confidence, but equally how many games you win. That if you get into that phase, and that was the problem early on in the year when the Marlins were in the hunt and the 9th was just, it was uncertain. Like Bender tried to do his best, but you could sense it wasn't there. And Tanner Scott, the same, like he's trying to do it, but he knows it just doesn't feel right for him either. And I mean, I'm not against, I think we just need to do something different, just kind of trying to piece it together forever. It feels like maybe a different approach would be the right, but I don't know how they fix that. They're probably not going to spend the dough, so they're going to have to trade for someone. And yeah, we know that can be expensive in some ways, but yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I've gone way off topic. Unless you want to add further on the bullpen, no. And then we will get into, we were talking about center field, and I segued us, so I apologize for that. We talked about Blade. Hasn't really worked out for him defensively. One guy that was given all the opportunities, and I think we again need to shine a light on, and Alan Witz, I hope you are listening, the biggest Jesus Sanchez stan there is. Jesus is absolutely scorching in AAA right now. He's absolutely scorching. Shaun, what kind of numbers is he delivering? And equally, what position is he playing? Is he still playing center in AAA, or is he in a corner? I don't actually know the answer to that, but talk about it offensively first, because for me, that's where the struggles showed most, where the bat and the swing was just so aggressive and loopy. So that seems to have tightened up. What's he doing offensively?
Yeah, offensively, and let's call out that I don't think either of us has seen a single Jesus Sanchez at bat in the minor leagues yet.
No, we haven't.
But the last 11 games, he's hitting over 500. Small sample size, be damned. A lot of singles. So 19 singles, 1 double and 2 home runs. The one thing that's most exciting for me, and that's above the 500 average, is the fact that he's walking. So 8 walks to 9 strikeouts. To me, that shows a player who is playing within themselves, playing with some control. Maybe that, you'd hope that swing, you've already spoken about Groshans' swing, Jesus Sanchez and Edwin Diaz, they've got some big, long, looping swings. So, hopefully he's tightened that up a little bit. He's working on it a little bit. And that's the main thing, isn't it? He's got the rest of this year at the minor league level, which is probably coming to a close quite soon. He'll play some winter ball, I would presume, in the off season, and then he's got spring training. And the numbers to me aren't important. It's the approach, it's the attitude, the idea of, is he willing to put in the work to work on those holes, to work on those things? Because that's one of the knocks that we've heard a little bit about him, is that sense of, he thinks he's the finished article and he's got nothing to work on. Maybe that's a bit, over the top. But I think, realistically, you need to see him put that work in. You need to see him work on his skills. Because otherwise you're going to get into a situation where, he's had his opportunity at the Marlins and he'll have to go elsewhere, and a proper hitting organisation will work with him and probably get what we should have got out of him. So, hopefully, he can turn it around and do it in the Marlins jersey.
Yeah, no doubt. And I've just been checking as you're speaking then. He's predominantly playing right field now in AAA. And it comes back to exactly what we spoke about. We spoke about it for weeks. I would say months, Shaun, me and you. We've talked about this topic. The fact that Jesus was shunted into that spot, asked to do it as effectively as a rookie, all the pressure that comes with it. And it clearly impacted him. It clearly did. And lo and behold, he's now back at AAA, making some adjustments, playing in right field. He's back to feeling comfortable, smile on his face, swag going, bombs away. There's tons of tools with Jesus Sanchez. I'm still shocked, to be honest with you, that they burned his final option year. I'm still shocked in this lost year that they didn't just call him up and just, leave him on the bench or do whatever to protect that option year. So they had more flexibility next year. I still don't understand that one at this point. Maybe we'll get an answer. It will probably result in some sort of trade, you would assume, because it's going to be hard to kind of commit to Jesus Sanchez, I think, for the opening day roster, I would say, for 2023, if, Soler and Avi are both healthy going into the year. Plus, they maybe add one or two others. So it's going to be hard to find a spot for him, I think. So really intriguing there. Bryan De La Cruz equally has been doing some work at the major league level. So we have to say De La Cruz was added to the expanded roster. That's why he got added to the 28-man. But actually over the weekend series in particular, a couple of home runs for De La Cruz, a couple of RBIs. He's actually performed pretty well, I would say. So again, he's gone down, made some adjustments, come back. Okay, it's September De La Cruz. I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't be kind of overly... we shouldn't dig too much into it. But nevertheless, good to see, though, right, De La Cruz. He's putting his best foot forward at this point to kind of give himself a chance to have a Marlins future, I would say.
Absolutely. And playing everywhere. Bit left, bit right, bit in centre. So, he's hitting reasonably well. The numbers over, the last couple of weeks have looked a lot better. And I think he's certainly putting himself in a position where he's saying, I deserve a spot on that bench. I am your bench outfielder. I can play all three of the positions at a reasonably good lick. I think, these are the struggles that players go through, don't they? Young players, they come up, they come down, and we can say that there are some real stud players out there that come up, hit straight away, and are elite players. But that's not your everyday. This is the normal sort of growth curve that you see. It's not linear. It's very up and down. And De La Cruz, he's when you see him play, he looks like a Major League Baseball player. He never looks too. You never look at him and go, he's struggling massively. He's always there or thereabouts. And the fact that he's hitting in September is a positive, of course.
Absolutely. You make a great point there, mate. He does. He doesn't seem flustered, De La Cruz. Just one thing, you can't tell if he's struggling or not. He just looks relatively controlled within himself. And I think that's an interesting, that's a good thing too. And it's good to see him back up. It's good to see him hitting. Good to see him getting the opportunity. The flexibility is there. If De La Cruz, we've said the same going into the current year, sorry. If De La Cruz is the fourth outfielder, he's perfect for that. He's got all the tools to be the fourth outfielder. We just need to have a couple of guys in, ahead of him that are going to probably be a little bit more reliable with a stick. One final one, though, Shaun, and then we will get out of here because we've already at the 30-minute mark, which is wild, but we always find a way to fill the time, no doubt. And the news that broke earlier in the week, actually, we kind of touched on him on the Tuesday episode, but Sixto Sanchez, there was some news breaking that he's actually throwing at 60 feet now. So he's been stretched out. I don't know what this means. It's interesting that the Marlins have given that update. Sixto is up to 60 feet. The other news as well, Jorge Soler requires no surgery, so he's just rehabbing on his back issues. Not the same as Jazz, perhaps, but Sixto Sanchez back to 60 feet. Do we see Sixto at all in 2023? If not, that will be 3 whole lost years for the Marlins.
This conversation, I can't keep having it.
I know.
I think I've said already before, Sixto, like, I don't want to hear 40 feet. I don't want to hear 60 feet. I don't want to hear having a bullpen or, throwing long toss.
Sim game.
Yeah, sim game. I will pay an awful lot of interest when I see him on a mound in front of a camera, and we'll go from there. Until then, I just can't trust anything I hear because it's been so long. The fact that he's probably had more, minutes spoke about on this podcast, and we've not seen him. I haven't seen a single picture. I haven't seen a single video clip of him since he was apparently in a fat suit in spring training.
I'm with you though, mate. For someone that has been in the news for the whole year, a whole 2 years actually, rehabbing from these various distances measured by a ruler, there's been no pictures, no image, no film, no nothing apart from the video that the Marlins created of him, this interview, which was taken down when the lockout happened, I believe, and was never put back up. I don't know if that was an oversight or maybe the Marlins are trying to tell us something there. But yeah, anyway, it was news. It was Sixto news, and it is towards the end of September, and it is the Marlins. So it's right for us to dig into the news that Sixto is now at 60 feet, and we'll wait and see whether images emerge of this and whether he is still in a fat suit or not. Nevertheless, that is us done on Locked On Marlins for Wednesday's episode. Shaun Barrett, thank you so much for a double episode. Tuesday, Wednesday, bang, bang, the UK GOAT in the house. We are going to leave it there. I will be back, of course, tomorrow, Thursday. In the meantime, guys, rest up, enjoy the episode, and I will be back tomorrow. See you then.